This is Culture of Greece. The past is present. I'm John Franklin. I teach about ancient Greece at the University of Vermont. In this segment, instead of talking about the music of ancient Greece, we'll find out what's happening in Greek music in the 21st century, today. You probably think you know what Greek music sounds like, right? Zorba the Greek, oppa, oppa, that kind of thing? Something like the song you're hearing right now?
What would be defined as Greek? Any song that has some bouzouki sounds Greek to the ears of foreign people.
That's Christy Stasinopoulou. She's a Greek musical performer, but that's not what her music sounds like. It sounds like this. Greek music can also sound like this. Or like this. Like the rest of Greek culture, the music has changed a lot since antiquity. According to Christy Stasinopoulou, you'd be hard-pressed to find any remains of ancient Greek music in the music of today.
Talking about the roots of Greek music, the authentic roots of Greek music, I would go back to what is called Byzantine music, which is the church music of the Byzantine era.
The Byzantine Empire is just the continuation of the Roman Empire, but in its eastern half, with a new capital at Constantinople, which used to be called Byzantium. The religion of the Byzantine Empire was Christianity, Greek Orthodox Christianity, and they had their liturgical music for church use, which involved liturgical hymns and modal chants. Gail Holst-Warhaft is Director of Mediterranean Studies at Cornell University. As she says,
very soon in the Byzantine Empire, you have the development of church music, whatever it says about its Greek roots, taking its actual practice from musical traditions that are closer at hand.
While ancient Greek music might have sounded something more like this. In the Byzantine era, Greek music sounded more and more like this.
During this period, influences are coming from everywhere. They have nothing to do really anymore with ancient Greece, except perhaps in theory. And it's this music that I think has had a lasting impact on Greece. Although Greek culture and Greek philosophy remained an enormously important influence on this Eastern Empire, it was sitting in the East, surrounded by other cultural influences, Eastern ones, and picked up, I think, a very lively and interesting mixture of musical influences from all around it.
At all periods of their history, the Greeks were open to surrounding influences like this. As singer Christy Stasinopoulou says, Greece is
surrounded by the sea and neighboring to Africa, to Asia, and to Europe.
Christy's own story demonstrates how this cultural blending works.
My father used to own a hotel in the southern little town of Kalamata. So in that small town and port, my elder brother, who is a kind of a freak of electronics, those days he was trying to manufacture radios by himself. And late in the night when the parents would fall asleep, he would scratch the radio and try and receive the waves, the radio waves, from all around the Mediterranean Sea. This was the soundtrack of my dreams all night. And and then you could listen to Israeli songs, then you could listen to Turkish songs, and also songs and music from Italy and from Spain.
You'll meet many Greeks who go overboard in stressing the ancient aspect of their culture. And it's definitely true that there's a continuous history there, and the ancient culture has developed into the modern culture. But this idealization of the ancient past, this romantic notion that ancient Greek culture was perfect, really owes a lot of its power to the 19th century nationalistic movements in Western Europe. And in Greece itself, there was the War of Independence in the 1820s, when they succeeded in throwing off Turkish rule, the Ottoman Empire. This movement had a lot of support from governments and intellectuals of Western Europe who, at this time, idealized ancient Greek culture. Gail Holst-Warhoff says it was these Westerners, not the Greeks themselves, who first suggested there was a link.
In the 19th century, we have a sort of hysterical admiration for ancient Greece as the birthplace of Western civilization. I mean, Western Europeans came to Greece, fought in the War of Independence, told Greeks that they were the proud descendants of Aristotle and Plato and so on.
While it's popular among Greeks to talk about their links to the ancient past, not everyone goes along. As Christy Stassinopoulos says,
it is something I dislike. I believe that most countries with a very, very old civilization, they make a big use of this old civilization, and they just rest on this and produce no civilization anymore.
But even Christy says that she finds herself being inspired by ancient Greece, as long as it's under the right circumstances.
I don't like to go in a big museum and see a wonderful statue with big lights on it and with all the people making pictures of it. But I have to tell you that it's very common and very often, if you walk on a very small deserted pathway on a faraway little island in the Aegean Sea, you may stumble upon a statue which is half broken and has been used as a brick to hold a house. Then it's really moving you. Then your history is there alive, and it is an inspiration.
Other Greek artists are less shy about drawing inspiration from ancient Greece. Dimitrios Vasilakis is a Greek jazz musician.
It's not like a story for me. I'm born in Greece, so these ancient myths and stories become part of my tradition, my cultural heritage. So that's how I feel about them.
What you're hearing now is Dimitri's song Icarus in Flight. He uses Greek myths and Greek gods in the titles of many of his songs. This track is from his album called Daedalus Project, which contains a number of other classically inspired songs like Theseus and Minotauros, Labyrinth, Pasiphae's Dance. All human cultures have some form of music, if we define that as organized sound, the artistic use of sound. But it's good to remember that when we talk about music, we're using language that for the most part comes from ancient Greece. All of these and more come from ancient Greek. Music, melody, harmony, rhythm, meter, tune, ode, chord, symphony, chorus come from ancient Greek. Even more technical words, like the names of the ancient Greek modes, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, and so on, have survived to the present day and are familiar to all jazz musicians. Dimitri Vasilakis says when he was studying music in college, he was very much aware that these ideas came from ancient Greece.
We went back to Pythagoras and then we analyzed the modes and, everybody knew that this comes from ancient Greece and, of course, this was very nice.
Modern Greek culture is very deep and rich, so there's a lot of material from over the centuries that modern Greek musicians can draw on to enrich their own music. For Dimitri Vasilakis, the best of Greek music and culture draws on all of these elements.
I record in London for a British label and then I travel to New York and all over the world, and I draw my inspirations from the jazz world, but it's very important for me to realize that I come from a country like Greece and we have different sounds, different scales.
Dimitri's talking about Greek folk music, the music played by the people. This is something totally different from the music of the Byzantine Church. We know that this sort of music can preserve very old elements. One of these are the peculiar rhythms that they use in modern Greek folk music, which are very similar to those of ancient Greece. In Western classical music, we use what's known as divisive rhythm, where you take, say, 4 beats and you divide your rhythm across the 4. In Greece and the Balkans, they use something known as additive rhythms, where you take little blocks of 2 or 3 beats and you add them together into complicated patterns.
Here it's very common to dance on 5/8 or 5/4 or 7/8 or 11 or 9. And it's so easy to do because it's like you're born with it.
Dimitri will sometimes play jazz on top of a traditional Greek rhythm section. He likes what the Greek rhythms bring to his jazz.
When I play with Greek musicians that are very familiar with these rhythms and we play these rhythms into jazz, they have a great feel, as we say.
Greek folk musicians learn these complicated rhythms at a very early age, like learning a language. It's not something they have to study, it's something that they grow up with. As he puts it,
it's in my DNA through my existence.
As for where Greek music stands today, Christy Stassinopoulos says it's tough to say from her perspective.
Really, I'm not the right person. I mean, a Greek person is probably not the right person to define what is Greek and what is not.
Both Christy and Dimitri are unhappy with a lot of modern Greek music. In the past, they say, Greek music has been open to outside influences, a little bit from here, a little bit from there, but with a still recognizably Greek character. But today it seems like the outside influences, especially commercial American influence, is starting to win.
The mainstream Greek music today, unfortunately I must say, does not have very much connection with those Greek roots I mentioned before. Very often you find musicians and producers just imitating sounds that come from outside.
Greek culture is 4,000 years old, and Greek music has been changing continuously over that whole time. We can be sure that whatever form Greek music takes in the future, it will continue. Thanks for listening. I'm John Franklin from the University of Vermont for Arts Edge, a program of the Education Department of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts.
This project is made possible through the support of the Alexander S. Onassis Public Benefit Foundation.